Let's get to Arsenal, they're out. Bent in this defeat in Munich. Do you think it's a fair result over the two legs? What's your take? Yes, I do, particularly tonight. I think the first half tonight, it was cagey, it was even. Second half was all Bayern. And once Bayern scored the goal, they had a couple of opportunities to go 2 or 3 up, and then they defended really well. I was saying during the game, this was earmarked as Harry Kane, former Spurs player, to knock Arsenal out. But it was Eric Dier, the former Spurs player, that was the best of the two. I thought he defended extremely well all game with De Ligt. It didn't really allow Arsenal any opportunity. They limited them to half chances, really, and they brought on Trossard and Jesus and Keita at the end, but they just couldn't create anything. And overall, you'd say, yeah, the experience of Bayern paid off. What will Arsenal think when they reflect on it? Do you think they'll feel they perhaps could have done more, particularly in that first half, come out stronger?
Yeah, I think so. I think I said before the game that in the knockout stages, they have looked a little bit inexperienced. Understandable, it's 14 years, I think, since they were last in the quarterfinals and the knockout stages. Bayern, they're used to that. Although Bayern, I think they've been out at the quarterfinal stage the last 3 campaigns, so they'll be pleased to get through that. But yeah, I think Arsenal could have done a little bit more, but as I said, it was so difficult because they defended particularly well Bayern in front of the home crowd. It has to be said, the Arsenal supporters were in good voice as well. It was said 3,700 of them went out to Germany and they were in good voice, so they'll be disappointed traveling home, but Bayern just done what they do. That's 2 massive losses in 4 days for Arsenal, isn't it? What now for their season, traveling to Wolves at the weekend? Well, they have to try and stay with Manchester City. We know that they're drawing tonight and the extra time's not going to help them particularly, but they're a winning machine, Manchester City, so Arsenal need to stay with them somehow. That's 2 massive losses in 4 days for Arsenal, isn't it? What now for their season, traveling to Wolves at the weekend?
Well, they have to try and stay with Manchester City. We know that they're drawing tonight and the extra time's not going to help them particularly, but they're a winning machine, Manchester City, so Arsenal need to stay with them somehow. Starting with Wolves, get over the disappointment of the 2 defeats, Villa and tonight against Bayern, and just see if Manchester City slip up. They'll be there to go ahead in the Premier League, but if they don't, however good it has been this season, it's still going to be disappointing to walk away with nothing at the end of the season. As a former player at this point, do you feel the momentum's against you? How difficult is it to rise again at this point, or is that down in part to the manager to gee them up again? Yeah, of course it is. The buck stops with the manager, we know that, and he has to make them forget about the last 2 results. Tonight in particular was disappointing because Bayern were there for the taking, I feel. I do feel whoever goes through tonight of Man City and Real Madrid, I think they'll beat Bayern. I could be wrong, but I didn't think they offered a lot. They've done enough just to beat Arsenal. So as momentum goes, senior players as well, you need to get together as a group and say, let's keep our season on track. See if we can just stay with Manchester City, Liverpool, whoever it's going to be winning the games, and try and end the season with something, some kind of momentum, because you don't want it to fizzle out like last season and keep that reputation that they bottled at the end of the season, because I think that's particularly hard. In some courts, it probably seems like kicking a team when they're down, but there's been a big debate, hasn't there, with Arsenal laughed off about not having a number 9. When it's games like this though, do you feel that perhaps a goal poacher, someone that's instinctive, could have helped them? Yes, I was a little bit surprised to see Jesus on the bench, whether that was a fitness issue or tiredness. We don't know. We'll hear from Mikel Arteta because he can offer you something a little bit different. They played Havertz up front, Martinelli left, Saka right. Martinelli was really good. Out of the 3 of them, he was the better player and he got taken off for Trossard. So that was disappointing. Saka couldn't really get into the game. Would you go into transfer market though? Ivan Toney potentially? They have to. They have to. Ivan Toney, whether he's available. Isak, if he's available, I'm sure Newcastle will have something to say about that. As will Brentford. The obvious choice looks to be Ivan Toney because we know he's an Arsenal supporter, but other clubs will be in for him as well. But they need a focal point because Jesus isn't an out-and-out goalscorer and Keita isn't that player that's going to get you to title challenges for me.